moderator. I am not from South Africa, because otherwise my KBC would be one that has never seen it. Jail, the Council of Legal Education for Kenya. But let me start by thanking the organizers, Journalists and Writers Foundation, for the invitation. Thank you very much. And let me also thank the Harmony Institute in Nairobi, represented here by Yusuf, for having me come here. Madam Moderator, the theme for this panel is transforming inclusive governance. And just 9 years ago, I think the exact date will be the 25th of September 2015, when we adopted the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. If you look at the title of that document, it says transforming our world. So therefore, it's important to ask ourselves, why is the word transforming at the heart of inclusive governance? And I think it is at the heart of our conversations because of what Professor Clayton said in the first session this morning. It's at the heart of our conversations because the current pace and direction of global governance is not delivering the dividends required. If you look at the global path to the future, it makes the point that sustainable development is impaired, the words of the Global Pact. But also, if you go to the UN Charter, we committed 79 years ago that we'll be able to address the issue of peace, we'll be able to address the issue of human rights, we'll be able to address the issue of dignity, justice, and social progress. As we see it today, those same challenges face us. Therefore, we require to transform how we govern the globe. Over the next 6 minutes, I'll be sharing 3 suggestions as to how we can change course in how we govern the globe. And that is with relation to public institutions. Allow me to focus on the first issue. And on the first issue, I'd like to make a case that I think we need to strengthen the adherence to the rule of law and the place of rule of law institutions. If you look at the part, it mentions the word rule of law 7 times in the content of the declaration. Goal 16 of the SDGs that we have on the left also underscore that rule of law is central to the realization of SDGs, whether it's about addressing the concerns that journalists have, as we had in the morning, whether it's about addressing the constituting space of civil society, whether it's about ensuring that all religions have space and all citizens have space. It's important that we deal with rule of law issues. However, the reality across the globe is that the principle and quality of institutions that guarantee rule of law are upgraded. It is therefore important that we need to ask ourselves, what can we do to ensure, especially judiciaries, are critical to the space. I think on the first day, the keynote speaker who spoke on the first night said they had to make a choice between the media and the state. They'll choose the media. I want to add on to that conversation that if you must make a choice between the 3 arms of government, I think the most critical arm of government in terms of the rule of law is the judiciary, because the one that focuses on the rights of the minority, the rights of the weak, the rights of the downtrodden. Therefore, strengthening judiciaries must form a core component of the work that we do, because it is the judiciaries that will ensure that there's checks and balances, and it is through them that we'll be able to avoid leaving all but those in power behind. Because if we do not have a strong judiciary, it is only those in power that will continue going ahead, and the rest of us will continue remaining behind. So, my first point that we need to strengthen judiciaries and adherence to the rule of law as part of our process of ensuring that we transform global governance. The second point I would like to make is from the sentiments of 2 panelists this morning. It speaks from the keynote address by Dr. Hajar Sani from Nigeria, UNESCO, and it speaks from the sentiments by the young gentleman, and it was said this morning. Both of them made 2 related points. One is the place of education, and 2, the place of young people. And I'd like to suggest that we need to look at education as a tool for empowering youth and engaging them in public institutions at the national level. Mara this ending General Assembly, the 79 has been celebrated for spotlighting youth in global governance. But I think we need to move beyond celebration to integration. Integration. We need to integrate young people in global governance, not just celebrate them. And that requires to give, it's only through them that we give true meaning to a word that was first used in 1992 at the Rio Declaration in Brazil, the word of intergenerational equity. We need to ensure that young people are given agency, young people are involved. From my country, Kenya, in June this year, we had a demonstration by Generation Z, a demonstration that shows that the conversation we had about the youth march must stop being a conversation, we must act on it. And to act on it, I would like to suggest that we do 2 or 3 things. The first is we must invest in public education institutions critically so that we worry about real delivery of SDG 4, the quality of education. We worry about the content of education and the cost of education. Number 2, we need to borrow from the suggestion by Nick. We need to ensure that there's linkages between educational institutions and industry, but also global governance institutions, so that young people can be able to be engaged in global governance institutions at a young age, so that the gentleman that I met from Bosnia yesterday, who is here, can be able to experience what it means to work at UNGA in Nairobi. The gentleman from the ladies from Nairobi can be able to know what it means to work at the UN headquarters there, so that we can have a new set of global citizens who can be able to reimagine global governance from their own vantage points. That's the only way that we can be able to strengthen global governance. That's my second point. My last point is sustainable development is about 3 things. It's about the economy, it's about society, and it's about environment. I think a lot of the conflicts that we face is about how we relate to the environment. And I would like to make a case that we need to finance environmental protection institutions much more. If you read UNEP's 2021 report, Making Peace with Nature, it makes the point that our relationship with nature is one of extraction. We see nature as an object, and as a consequence, we continue to have conflicts over it. I think we need to change that relationship. We need to see nature as one that we must relate with, because one that also has rights. But also, we need to put much more efforts in funding globalist, funding public interest institutions that deal with the environment, working about capacity building for them, because as the UN Secretary General said in the last conference of parties that took place in Africa, the one in 2022, we are in a fight of our lives and we're losing it. So therefore, as I end, I think we need to ensure that as we change global governance institutions, we must recognize that we must act at all levels. We must act at the international level, we must act at the national level, we must also act at the local level. Because it's only by strengthening public institutions at the national level that will deliver true dividends to the people and will make global governance inclusive, realistic, and useful for the 21st century. Thank you very much.